Last but not least, we wanted to talk about the ride cymbal mic, which you know what, in this song. Well, no, I did use the ride a few times. I think I went to the ride on one of those sort of middle sections. Let's see here. Let me see if we can find the ride cymbal. Oh yeah, right here. Here we go. Okay, so first thing to know is that I'm using a Shure SM81 underneath the ride cymbal, and I'm a big fan of miking from the top. I still prefer that, but the way the setup is here in the studio, the reason I have it miking from underneath is just because it eliminates one of the boom stands that would stick out far, and it's kind of in the path of me going from this seated position to the seated position behind the drums, and I'm always wearing out a path between these two spots, and it's just, oftentimes I would just bump into the mic, and it was just a big pain in the neck having to duck underneath it every time. So just out of convenience sake, I'm using a clip, and it's just mic'd from the bottom, and for me it sounds pretty much the same. So and really this is just an extraneous microphone. I mean, do we really need a ride cymbal microphone? Probably not, and in most situations I think probably it would just be ignored. But it is sort of the Nashville way to just provide as many choices as possible and provide as many options as there can be, that you can afford. And if you have that many channels, then give them that many channels, of drums. Why not? This way, it's better to have the option there and be like, oh, we need to bring up, is there a way to bring up that ride cymbal or the bell of the ride cymbal? And isn't it better when you can say, yes, we can do that, than to say, oh, geez, no, if we do that, we'd have to bring up the overheads and all the whole drum kit gets, the whole picture of the drum kit gets changed. So it's just better to have options for control, and certain producers, certain mix engineers just like to have these things. So that includes the ride cymbal, that includes the hi-hat, that includes the crunch mic, that includes maybe the mono room mic, that maybe it even includes the stereo room mics. There was a time when I was recording and I didn't have room mics, and you just put the reverb on the overheads, and do the best you can. And that's okay. Like that, you have to start somewhere. And I didn't get all of this gear all at once either. Like it's all like in time, you sort of accumulate and acquire, things one at a time. I mean, I started recording with one microphone, an SM57, over the top of my drums, and then I bought a kick drum mic, and so now I have a kick drum mic and I have an overhead as an SM57, and you just build it up from there. And then one day I bought an interface with 8 channels, and then okay, now I can buy tom mics and a snare mic, and you just start building it like that. Unless you have, maybe you're a trust fund baby and you have $1 million to spend, there's a lot of money that can get sunk into owning a home recording studio. And I think it's best to just acquire one thing at a time. And this way, it teaches you to learn how to use what you have. Because if you buy all this stuff all at once, you're not going to learn how to use 2 microphones and get a good sounding mix with just 2 or 3 microphones, the way you would if you just owned those 2 or 3 microphones. When you own 2 or 3 microphones, you're going to spend a great deal of time learning how to manipulate the sound from those 2 or 3 microphones versus, okay, we're running 15, I forget, there's 15 tracks here. That's a more complex setup. And how do I negotiate that? Where do I even begin? Do I start with the close mics? Do I start with the room mics? Do I start with the overheads, and etc.? So it's much. If you're learning and you're just starting out, just take your time, be patient, and just acquire one thing at a time, and learn how to use that one thing really, really well. Even if it's a 57, even if it's an $80 microphone, that's okay. And nobody's judging you for that. You know, people use an SM57 on a snare drum all the time for a reason. It works. It's not always the most favorite microphone, but my snare mic right now is an Audix i5. That's what I've been using lately. But I put 57s on a snare drum all the time. The bottom snare drum mic that I have is a 57. So I've seen 57s on hi-hats. I've seen them on all the time. I've seen people use 57s on the whole drum kit, close mics, on like hit records. So don't feel like, oh, I need to have like, you know, $800 worth of microphones on every drum. It's not necessary to get a good drum sound. So yeah, ride cymbal. Let's just listen to it real quick. This is what I would do with a ride cymbal mic if I was gonna use it. I'm gonna high pass it big time. It's like anything less than like, you know, below 800 hertz is gone. And let's just yeah, there we go. I'm gonna and then maybe roll off a little bit of the top end. See what a difference that makes? So that's basically how I would treat a ride cymbal microphone. Same with the hi-hat. Let's go to there. And I'm going to take that off and maybe just go like around here somewhere. So you see, I've got it high passed. Got a little bit of top end on there. We could... Oop. Yeah. And then what we can do sometimes, I'll put this DBX on there. A little bit of compression just to kind of just saturate it a little bit. And typically it's not a good idea to mix while soloing a microphone. You really want to put the signal through the drum sound and just let's just hear what it sounds like. So there you go. That's basically what I would do.